I'm going to show how to do the simplicity stitch on the Ktel knitter. I've done videos on this already, just introducing it and showed how to do the chain. So I'm going to show how to do the simplicity stitch, do a few rows, and then show how you can cut between the stitches or between the rows, and you can create a hole for an opening depending on what you're working on, and it won't unravel, which is a unique feature that the Ktel knitter offers. This is a vintage, made in the USA. I don't know if you can see that or not. This is a vintage item. Where's it at? Right there. Anyways, it says made in the USA right here, and then on this side it says the Ktel knitter. So basically it's not really knitting, it's kind of a cross between knitting and crocheting. People who crochet and knit have used it. This is a vintage item that I got online, the actual item from the 1970s, late 60s, early 70s. And on my YouTube video I showed a commercial from the 1970s advertising it. But at any rate, there's, you can get a book online. They are kind of hard to come by, and then they have a more modern type of looper like this, and that's basically what it is a looper. So you're going to start with putting your yarn through the bottom, and it's just kind of like, if you've ever used a sewing machine before, it's kind of like threading bobbin. Go through the bottom, come up to the top, at any rate. So now you're going to have a loop. This item here is your measuring, so basically from here to here is about an inch, and so you're going to make a just make your little starting loop like you do when you crochet. If you've never crocheted before, that's how you start. Okay, so I'm going to have plenty of this to the side, and I'm going to expand my screen here so I can see better what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll do about, the measurement of this is about an inch. So when the first time you go over, what I do is I just kind of keep a finger on it here to keep it from putting out too much, because I want a consistent stitch. So when you're first starting out, do a chain about 3 to 4 times just to get a hang of how the process is, and to have a consistent chain. Once you get a nice even consistent chain, then start working on your simplicity stitch. That's just my suggestion. Okay, so you have about an inch here. Okay, and then you're just gonna, actually that's loop is probably a little bit too big, and that's one of the main things, is keeping your loop about the same size consistently. Okay, so that's when you measure evenly on each time. This length here to where this knot is, about an inch. You're just going to take that over, bring it down to that red bobber, that's your measurement, and pull up. And then as you pull up, you're pulling out and kind of controlling it here about the same amount. See, from here to here. And then go back over, down to the red bobber, and pull up. It's really that simple. And you're just going to repeat that motion for however wide or long. Let's say you're working on a scarf, or if you, when I do my scarves, I do the length of the scarf first. Some people do widths, so it's completely up to you. Or if you're working on a pot holder, which is an easy project, and you're learning something new, to start with something simple like a pot holder, scarves, something like that. So basically right now what I'm doing is I'm just making my chain, and this is pretty much identical to a chain as if you're crocheting. And you'll see, whoop, keep See, I always put my thumb through the loop. You don't have to do that. That's my preference. And like with crocheting, you kind of get your own little way you hold a crochet hook. Some people hold it differently. You just get your own groove going, basically. But the main thing is to keep your consistency. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to hold this. When I stop, I'm holding this loop on here. Okay, now, you see this chain? It's kind of not really even, a little bit twisted. In the back side of the chain, you have that back middle line through it like you would see with the regular chain. So we have some inconsistencies here, so I'm going to go ahead and back that up. I'm just showing you. I lost grip on it. The chain was a little inconsistent there. So I like a nice even chain as much as possible. Okay. And you'll get the hang of it. It feels, you know, when you try something new, it feels awkward, but once you get to doing something, you can do it in your sleep. Do it without a whole lot of thought, and it becomes smoother. Okay, so we have your chain here. Make sure the back rows are even. Okay, so now when this is probably gonna be backwards depending on how my camera's going to turn out. So your loop should be on the left and your work should be on the right. So what I'm going to do, and I'm doing this upside down, so I apologize. So when I pull this up, actually I don't want that loop, that last loop, to be too big, because remember that's where you're going to be coming back around to the side, so make sure that last loop is not too big. Okay, so you turn this. Now what you're going to do, okay, you see where this loop is in? You're not going to use that chain there. You're not going to use that part of the stitch that the loop is coming from. So you're going to go to the next one where there's not the loop coming out of it, and you're going to go under only the back part of the chain and go over the loop, pull up, and see you've got the same amount, and then go to the next one, back part of the loop only, and then the next one, and that's how you start your first row. So you go to the next back loop there, pull over the same amount left from here to there. You see I go to the next one, not this one with the loops coming out, but the next one. And you just do that all the way down till you get to the end of the row. Apologize, my allergies. This looks kind of, this stitch was a little bit tighter than the last one, so. And make sure, you know, you're just keeping your consistency. You want your loop to be the same. The loop size, I put my thumb in, it has to be the same, and from here to here is the same on each stitch. It's not complicated, you'll get used to it. What you don't want to do is you want to make sure that this is, your end string here is nice and loose. You don't want that snug and to pull your tension out of whack. Okay. Oop, I'm going to back that one up. That loop was not quite consistent. Make sure I'm going into the right part of the stitch. That's why, especially when you're starting out, you want to make sure your loops are nice and loose so that you can see what you're doing quite more easily than if your stitches were tighter. See, that one was really loose, but We're getting to the bottom of the row here. Okay, so that's the last one. All right, and with crochet you add a stitch, remember? Okay, so we're turning it, okay, and you see how there's this loose little goober here? That's why it's really important. You can't fix that. You'd have to go back, okay, but I would normally fix that, but for this purposes I'm just doing a demonstration. Don't worry about the tension being too hard. You will get the hang of it, I promise you. Okay, so go to the first one here. I'm trying to use this light yarn, easier to see. It's actually very soft. It's pretty slippery on this Ktel knitter is what it's called, but I do, it's just a scrap yarn that I have. Don't pay any attention to that one sticking up there. We can correct that, make that disappear. It's not a biggie. Just try to make sure that you have consistency. And this loop, if it's starting to feel like it's trying to get smaller, just loosen it up so that you have consistency from here to here, and your loop should be the same each time. And I try to keep a little bit control going on down here. Getting down to the end of the row again, the last one. Okay, so we're going to add a stitch and turn. Okay, hold on to that, keep your finger in that loop so it doesn't get away from you as you're turning this. Okay, your work should be on the right. Alright, okay, and once again make sure you don't start with the one where your loop is at. Okay, only going in the back row. I'll probably do one more row and then make sure you're going in the right one, back stitch only. And then I'll show you in the next video, I'll show another stitch called ribbing. See, it's just that simple. This is called the simplicity stitch. Go over, pull it through, same amount, go to the back of the stitch, go over, pull it through, same amount, back of the stitch, go over, pull it through, and then make sure you're loose over here, pulling from my scrap yarn ball over there. Should we get back to, see, I just kind of choke up on a little bit, control it with my thumb over here, and kind of keep this, my finger right here, my finger right here to keep this from changing the length that I want for this stitch. And then that loop got away from me a little bit, so just make sure that that loop stays the same size for each one. So I'll keep my thumb in it, kind of help keep control there. See, now I got the length I want here, so I'm going to kind of tuck it down with my finger here to keep it from getting away. You can determine your own way of controlling your tool. Everybody has their own little way of doing it. Okay, you'll figure it out, what comes natural for you or easier for you, more comfortable, if you will. Okay, we are at the bottom of the loop here, the end of the row, if you will, and as you see, that's basically how it's done. And I could do more, and when you get maybe about this much, if you want to cut, what you will do, and I might just go ahead and do this to show you, you're going to go in between the rows to cut. If you want to make a buttonhole, just go in between the rows and you just cut, and you just pick out the little scraggles of yarn. And so I'd like to do a bigger piece, but my back's hurting sitting like this. I just wanted to show how to do the simplicity stitch, and that's it. That's all you got to do. And to end a project is the same way. You just, cut the end and loop it, tie a knot or whatever, how you would end a regular crochet project. So this is the simplicity stitch, and then I'm going to show the next video. I will show how to do the ribbing. I can't say exactly when I'm going to do the video, but I hope it to be very soon.